Hey, it's Ben with Lions SRD here. Really quickly, thanks for stopping by. And if you want to catch our other shows here on sportsradiodetroit.com, like Out of Bounds, the SRD Road Show, Laugh Tracks, Spinning the Wheels, any of our great selections, you easily can. Just go to Apple's iTunes, Spotify, right here on Podbeam. You can go directly to the website, sportsradiodetroit.com, and basically get all the content you want. We just appreciate you stopping by, and if you like it, give us a good review so other people can find it. Now, Lions SRD.
You're listening to Sports Radio Detroit.
Let's go out and leave it all on the field. It's going to start with us. We got to make plays in order for us to win. All you got to do is do your assignment, nothing more. Let's go. Playmakers on three. 1, 2, 3, playmakers.
Matthew leans in, he's got it, wants to throw. Pressure comes up at the screen, got it to Riddick. Riddick to 15, Riddick 10, Riddick 5, Riddick end zone! Touchdown, Detroit Lions! He's to Abdullah, right side, got a hole. Abdullah 20, Abdullah 10, shakes the man at the 8, and dances into the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions! The action fake, he's gonna throw. Rhodes does, it is picked off by Lions. Coming back the other way off the deflection. Glover Quinn, back to the house. Touchdown, Detroit Lions! 38 seconds left. Bradford's got it on third down. Sets and throws. It is intercepted. Darius Slay's got it at the 30. Slay inside the 25. Matthews got it. Looks right. Throws. Caught. Golden Tate. End zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Barkley takes the snap. Back to pass. Looks. Rolling. Hit. Still alive. Now he's not. Going down. Sack. Back outside the 50-yard line. Kerry Hyder's got it. Backing up, looking for somewhere to go. Stafford's going to tuck it and run. Stafford at the 5, 3, 2, 1, end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Oh, Matthew took it home.
Lions SRD on sportsradiodetroit.com.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Lions SRD here on sportsradiodetroit.com. It was a weird week because the Lions played on a Saturday and not on a Sunday. And it was weird because, well, the Lions actually could run the football. It's also weird because Marty Stouffer's back. Marty, you had the week off. I hope that rest and relaxation. I hope you have fresh legs because we're going to run you through the gauntlet today.
I like it. Let's do it.
All right. Well, just really quickly, what we're going to be talking about is the run defense actually looked pretty solid. And a guy that I know, Marty, you like, actually had a pretty good game in Rod Davis. We all know what happened on Sunday. A lot of people were upset with what happened around the NFL. That'll probably be one of our closing topics. Ameer Abdullah basically being benched. And, well, will the real Eric Ebron please stand up? Because we don't know who the real guy is. Quandre Diggs being a natural safety. And Sam Martin not looking good. But then again, he's also been injured. All right, so let's start right from the top. That run defense on Saturday, at least for me, was nothing short of amazing. I mean, you still have Jordan Howard on the Bears team. Granted, the Bears, they also have a very good backup in Tariq Cohen, who only had 2 carries for 1 yard. I mean, it was something that, Marty, just watching the game on Saturday, well, I watched it in tape delay. I watched it on Sunday morning. But it was really weird to see how good that the Lions were playing in run support. Rod Davis, like I just mentioned, had a pretty decent game. He had 6 total tackles, 5 solo. And, he got in on a tackle. Didn't have any tackles for loss, but to hear Whitehead did, it's just all of a sudden out of nowhere, this defense is actually playing like it did the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's getting healthy again, and they seem to finally, as ridiculous as this sounds, they seem to be finally comfortable in their own skins out there. They've got pretty much all the starting roles nailed down finally. The regular guys on the depth chart starting again. So it's nice to see that those guys are all getting comfortable playing with each other, and it was absolutely outstanding to watch. I can't Ben, you know me. I'm not a big numbers guy, so I don't have all their numbers right in front of me. I don't think the defensive line did much on paper, but I do know they were in the backfield quite a bit, and I do know they were wreaking some havoc. Whether that translated to sacks, I honestly don't remember. But I mean, it was good to see guys like Tahir Whitehead and Gerard Davis, even Paul Warlow getting in on it was good to see, and the secondary was just flat out incredible.
Yeah, and one thing that obviously when the Lions play the Bears, I always go back to draft night when Darius Slay saw that Mitch Trubisky got drafted by the Bears, and his reaction, he tweeted it, yeah, this guy's going to get picked. Darius Slay backing it up, had 2 interceptions for 19 yards. Quandre Diggs, like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about him and what he's done the last 3 weeks, but he even had an interception on Saturday. It was just really nice to see. Granted, the Bears are very one-dimensional, and they're a team that, when you watch the Bears, and obviously if you saw it on Saturday, not only are they predictable, but it's like Mitch Trubisky has regressed a little bit. Like his head's starting to swim, and it's just evident. Like it was evident, and the Lions were able to take advantage of it, even though the Lions got off to one of the slowest starts, only getting 3 points in the first quarter. It's just something that's been a really ugly trend that we've obviously been dealing with all season. The Lions have barely scored, if anything, in the first quarter the last, 6 weeks now? It seems like maybe now 7. It's just this team, if they want to win out, which we'll also get to that, but they just need to get more points scored in the first quarter. I don't know what it is. Like, I honestly don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Jim Bob Cooter not able to script a good first 10 plays or anything like that. It's just, to me, it's mind-boggling that this offense cannot score in the first quarter, but yet each subsequent quarters they end up scoring, and they usually score immediately after the half for whatever reason. Defenses are playing laxed on them or what, but that's when they start to get their points, is in the third and fourth quarter. And it's just, I don't know, it's just something that you would think with the end of the season and potentially the playoffs, which is still within reach, you would think that would change, wouldn't you?
You would think they would have figured it out by now, but I mean, you watch this team, and it's pretty clear that they don't have it figured out yet, and it's week 15, week 16. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I kind of wanted to piggyback on something you had said. You had said it looked like it's obvious Trubisky has regressed. I don't know. I mean, statistically, he had one of his better games outside of the interceptions. Now, I'm not saying you can ignore those. Clearly you can't, because those were game changers. But he threw for 300-some yards. I want to say he had somewhere between 15 and 20 completions. I mean, he looked okay, but I mean, it also doesn't help that his main receiver is Josh Bellamy. It's just he's got no weapons in that passing game. Marcus Wheaton can't get on the field because, as usual, he can't get healthy. That's something we saw here in Pittsburgh. That passing game it's just garbage, and I kind of feel bad for the kid because as the first or second overall pick, whatever he was, there's a lot of expectations with that number, with that title, regardless of how fair it is. So he's trying to live up to that as well as win the game and kind of not throw the game away. But when you have guys like Josh Bellamy and the guy walking down the street as their number 2 receiver, it's just it's doomed for failure. So I don't want to go as far as say he's regressed. I just think he just doesn't have the right toys to play with in this offense.
No, that's fair. I mean, basically his average game is about 175 yards. Yeah. So that does speak to that. It's just, I don't know, like the reason why I say regressed is against better teams, and I have to rank the Lions in with this, he does usually have a negative touchdown to interception ratio. On Saturday, it was 1-3. He had 1 touchdown pass, 3 interceptions. Against the Eagles, whose secondary is a secondary that it's it's not great, but they benefit from the front seven. 0 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. Against the Saints, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then against the Vikings back in October when he finally got the starting job from Mike Glennon, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 128 yards in that debut. So, I don't know. It's just maybe regressed was the wrong word, but it's just clearly the kid's a rookie, and you can easily take advantage of him, and it's just, yeah. But going back to that run defense, though, because it's just something that, again, the Bears only got 43 yards on 15 carries, and it's just something that you don't really see the Lions actually making a team turn one-dimensional. Usually the Lions are being caught off guard or whatever it is, and it's just, like we just said a few minutes ago, hopefully the light bulbs have turned on and they get this sense of urgency that they need to play better with 2 games left to go.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The sense of urgency thing, like we talked about it 2 weeks ago. There is no sense of urgency with this coaching staff at the very least. They start off so slow, and with the talent they have on that team, there's no reason to start off that slow.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, they've got to wake up. They've got to start putting rubber to the road, or however the phrase goes. They've got to come out of the gates better. Period. Settling for 3 points a quarter or nothing, as has happened before. I mean, it's unacceptable. They've got to wake up, and they've got to come out guns blazing.
They do. No, they definitely do. And one last thing about the defense. Did you see Tahir Whitehead's face covering? Did you see that? Did you see photos of it? Because I know you're more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy, but he had the Joker as his.
Oh yes, I did see that.
That was so awesome.
Yeah, it was.
I just saw that and it has a sense of childhood playfulness, but it also looks intimidating.
Yes,
when you see that, it just, I don't know. I saw that and I was just like, that is just really cool. One thing that we talked about on the Bears side, the rushing offense wasn't really that great. Marty, how long have I been saying the Lions should run out of the pistol?
Several weeks.
I was going to say, pretty much since you've known me, right?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's just something that it just seems so painfully obvious that the Lions are perfectly set up to run out of the pistol. And out of the 21 carries, 16 of them came out of the pistol formation. And even when the Lions passed, they passed 7 times out of the pistol. They could do play-action fakes, which we mentioned 2 weeks ago when Stafford actually runs or does a passing play out of play-action. It's one of the best in the league. But about time. That's all I have to say. Because on Saturday, it was nice. It was nice to see them in the pistol. It allows for guys like Tion Green, who's a one-cut back, a guy like Theo Riddick, who needs to get a little speed before he can cut. It seemed perfect. It just seems like the perfect strategy. Granted, neither of them broke 50 yards, but Theo Riddick still had 8 carries for 49 yards, which is an average of about 6. So it's not terrible. It's not great, because the Lions still haven't had a 100-yard rusher in God knows how long. It's been a couple of years now. But at least it's progress. It's something that you finally hope to see that something keeps improving. But really quick, going down the list of topics here, speaking of progress, there might be some regression with Ameer Abdullah being benched. What are your thoughts on that, Marty? Because Abdullah is still the Lions' leading rusher. You look at the stats. He has over 500 yards for the Lions, and he only has 3 rushing touchdowns, which it's tied for, the lead with the Lions. But it's just, I don't know. It is a really weird scenario. What are your thoughts on that?
It's about time. I was never an Abdullah guy. I hated the pick when they made it. But, as we all know, I'm not an analyst. I don't have a background in sports journalism and all that. So my perspective is that of a fan. I didn't like the pick when they made it. To me, he doesn't come across as a special running back. I'm going to cheer for anybody in blue and silver, regardless, or as the case was Saturday, silver, all gray. But I think it's overdue. He's been so ineffective when he's been healthy, which has been rare. Now this season he's been healthy pretty much all year, which is good to see. But I mean, I think it's just time for the Lions to move on away from Abdullah, and it seems like they are. And I'm not saying Tion Green's the answer. I'm not saying Zenner is, but at this point, I'd rather see them start one of those two guys over Ameer Abdullah. I just think it's time to move on.
Well, here's the thing that's really weird about it, right? You would think at least the Lions coaching staff would be up front with the guy. And when he was asked by it, Dave Burkett, the Detroit Free Press, asked him point blank about it. And Abdullah said that he doesn't know why I would be, in reference to being in a doghouse, and like he just doesn't understand it. And he went on to say, obviously, it's definitely frustrating. It's definitely something I just want to take in and do my best to grow from it. That's it. But it's just, I mean, he's running up for a career low of 3.4 yards a carry. But some of that could be with the patchwork offensive line. You know, it could be a myriad of issues as to why. But at some point, you have to kind of work past that. And the thing that bothers me about this whole thing is that if a player doesn't even know why he's in a doghouse or being benched, that's just another red mark against Jim Caldwell. Like, you would think at the very fundamental and basis of running a team is just being honest with your players. Demand more from them. At any level, you want to tell your players if they're not performing the way you would like. And yes, you can say, hey, you're not going to get touches, Ameer, until you get better, until you show us you deserve those touches, until you've earned those touches. At least something. But to have him say, I don't know why I would be in the doghouse or anything like that, that's kind of Bush League. And that's bad leadership. And it's just something that, again, it's a red mark against Caldwell. If he can't even be honest with his players, why is he your head coach? I don't get it.
Yeah, that's an issue, and I mean, it's if he truly is in the doghouse, and it looks like he is because he didn't carry the ball all that much on Saturday. If he's in the doghouse, I mean, I think he at least any quote unquote starter deserves to know why. I mean, you take a look at New England. Technically, Rex Burkhead is this. I think he's the starter, but I mean, they don't necessarily always trot him out there all the time. You know, sometimes they use Dion Lewis. I mean, they rotate. I mean, at least they have some consistency with the way they run their running backs. So maybe it's not even Caldwell. Maybe it's the running backs coach maybe saying, hey, you know, sit down, take a breather, or not being the one to inform them. I don't know. But I mean, you're right. It's a lack of leadership. And, you know, I've stood by Caldwell, and I'm going to again. But it's getting harder and harder to defend the man. It really is. Something's got to give here with the way he runs this team. If he's going to bench Abdullah, then bench him. Don't trot him out there as the starter and then hand him the ball 2 times and then just run the wheels off of Riddick and Tion Green. Like, if you're going to bench him, just bench him for good. Just be done with it. Deactivate him. Start somebody else. Call it a day. I don't know what they're doing with this running back situation. It's confusing, but Caldwell's definitely got to come out and say, player X is my starting running back. This is how we're doing it.
Well, right.
But I don't think Caldwell will.
Well, but here's the worst part, right? Like, he's still listed as a co-starter. Like,
Yep.
any time Caldwell's asked about it, it's still co-starter with Theo Riddick. And at one point in the game on Saturday, Kyle Meineke pointed this out on Twitter. Theo Riddick had 13 snaps. Ameer Abdullah had none, and Tion Green had 4. And in Abdullah's defense, and I'm not the biggest Abdullah guy. I even said at the beginning of the year, you need to see what you have from him. And that's why I understood why the Lions did not draft a running back. Because you still need to see where you need to go, right? Except when he got a carry on Saturday, it was 1 carry for 8 yards. Outside of that, He was a threat in the passing game. He caught 3 passes for 13 yards and converted on a lot of those for first downs. I think it was for at least 2 of them for first downs. I don't think all 3 of them were. But it's just, like, obviously there still has to be some value there. But because if not, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have any of those numbers. And granted, yes, he's been inconsistent at best, and that's part of the problem. But it's just also something that, again, be honest. Like, I know Caldwell likes to be cagey with the media. We had a topic last week where it was, what do you think his favorite movie is? Because someone asked him, hey, what's your favorite movie? And he refused to answer it. Someone even said, hey, what's your favorite Christmas song? Refused to answer it. Like, it's okay in, like, that scenario, but come on. Like, when it's something as simple as black and white and you're just going to be like, well, no, it's just, that's the frustrating thing about all of this. Because if you're not getting that leadership from your coaching staff, and that's why it also makes sense that his extension was announced last week as only being until 2018, which again raises a ton of questions about why do it now? Why say that when you did it under the cover of darkness, which we all thought it was a multi-year deal instead of just extending him a year. It's a bad look. It's something I can't get over. And I don't know. Granted, you and I, Marty, see things differently. I don't know how you can still be in this guy's corner.
Somebody's got to be, I'm going to keep beating that dead horse. There's nobody on the horizon. There's nobody there. Now, I'm not sitting there saying he's a great coach. I'm not saying he's the guy for the job, but he's the guy right now. And again, I'll say it again. I'll support anybody wearing that Honolulu blue. And if he's the head coach, he's the head coach. I will always say he felt like the booby prize when we got him. There was other, I think, for lack of a better term, better candidates, guys that maybe could have run this team better or differently. But I'll stand by Caldwell because there's nobody else out there that I see as a potential good replacement. I just don't, because when you bring in a new head coach, it's basically admitting you have to start all over again, and I don't think they have to start all over again. I don't think they're that far away from being good. They just need to, or from being really good. They just need to be consistent, and that comes from obviously health. That's a big thing for any team, but I mean it also comes from drafting the right players. And I'll look at Ameer Abdullah again. I will never understand why they fell in love with him as much as they did. To me, he's just another guy. But I mean, that's fine with how they're incapable of running the ball. It doesn't really matter. But it's just, that's another thing they've got to get. But they haven't drafted a good running back since Barry retired. I mean, good God.
Yeah, I mean, they had the kid out of Vodtech. He wasn't bad.
Kevin Jones, but that was injuries riddled him too.
Well, right, and then Javid Best was a good pick, but then again, obviously injuries there. Outside of that, Lions have been plagued with running back issues. I mean, they really have. It's been awful. But let's be positive for a little bit. And this was a topic that, Marty, you came up with, and I loved it. I thought it was great because this guy has been a thorn in people's sides for obvious reasons. Sometimes he's clutch, other times he's not. And
he's easily the most polarizing player in Detroit sports this year and last. Easily.
Oh yeah, very much so. And it's easy to be when you have hate tweets that you read as motivation for your workouts.
Yep.
I still can't get over that. We found that out 3 years ago, but I don't know. Obviously, we're talking about Eric Ebron, and it's something that at the beginning of the year, it was typical Eric Ebron. It wasn't consistent. Like, he started out fine. First game of the year, 2 of 3. Next game, 5 of 5 on Monday night against the Giants. After that, the wheels fell off hard. We all know it did, right? We're not hiding any secrets from people that watch Lions football and say, oh, yeah, Ebron's great. Well, no. But he has been good after the trade deadline. After November, he's been pretty reliable. Granted, there's been some drops like that you would have thought he wouldn't have done in a couple of games. I know against the Browns there was a bad drop. There's a couple of bad drops in Chicago as well when they barely beat the Bears by a field goal. But he's been pretty consistent, and I don't know. It just kind of begs the question because he's playing on an option right now. I mean, it's something that I don't know if you maybe just keep him. I don't know if that's changed the narrative per se if you keep him or not. But he's proving to be a pretty reliable weapon as of late.
Yeah, and he's done something that I didn't think he would ever do, and not through anything he would do. He seems to have earned Stafford's trust, which Stafford, even in college and up till now, he's not a tight end guy. He never has been. He seems to be evolving into one because he's looking just to see who's open, and Ebron's open quite a bit. Now, if that's because of his athletic ability and his knowledge of the offense, maybe. Is it the defense just saying, Ebron will drop it? I don't know. But, I mean, you could definitely tell he's earning Stafford's trust. And it's nice to see, man, because, ever since that trade deadline passed, it seems like the light bulb clicked. And, he's been playing really strong. We talked about it before we launched tonight. I can't fault him for the fumble he had. To me, that's his biggest gaffe since the trade deadline. And I can't fault him for that because that's such a fluky, weird thing. I mean, Levante David came in from behind and just tomahawk chopped that ball. Mm-hmm. It was just such a fluky play. But, yeah, he's been absolutely lights out. And I think at this point you kind of have to keep him. You've invested so much in him. I believe he was Caldwell's first pick, wasn't he?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I'd have to double check that. But
I think if this is Caldwell's fourth year, then Ebron would be his first pick because Ebron's in his fourth year, isn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it would have to be. But so I mean, Caldwell's kind of tied to him as well, as and that's. They've got a lot invested in him, and like I said, he's coming along. He's definitely got the team confidence rallied around him. I think they kind of have to now. Does that mean he gets a big extension? No, not necessarily. Maybe give him a 2-year deal and kind of see how that fleshes out. I don't know, but yeah, I would have no problem with them re-signing him if he can finish out the season playing the way he is now.
Yeah, I mean it's something that his 5th-year option was picked up back in May. And, yeah, I mean, if it's something that he can keep building on this, then, yeah, I mean, you are going to have to go back to that drawing board and say, well, yeah, maybe we keep you. Because, I mean, it's something that, obviously, the Lions brought in Darren Fells. Darren Fells has been solid. Hasn't been great, hasn't been bad, but he's been solid. And Michael Roberts is still trying to figure his way out and about on the field. I mean, he really is. He's seeing a little bit more playing time, but he's not being thrown to. He's just basically being used as a blocker. He's not really going out on routes or anything like that. It's just almost at this point, you would think maybe you extend him for a year or two just out of need, right? Like if you were going to do it.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, Ben, we all know that the two of us look ahead to the draft, and not that many names have come out, but I don't really see any big prospect tight ends coming out, guys that are like big game changers. I don't really see any hitting the free agent market. I mean, you kind of have to extend him. I think he's kind of earned that, especially if he finished out the season playing strong. Yeah, you kind of have to extend him, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, almost at this point, I would be okay with it if the price was right. If it's something where it's, ridiculous, then obviously no. I'm not. Right. I'm not gonna be like, woohoo, Ebron's. Yeah, no, it has to be at the price is right, or else, it's just not worth it. Another bright spot the past 3 weeks, Quandre Diggs, just playing good safety, man. Like, I don't know what's going on with him, but he just, at least for me, whenever I see him, just has a nose for the football. It's literally been pretty much like night and day. Like, you have Glover Quinn obviously, who's been very reliable, right? And
Yep.
then Quandre Diggs comes in and just plays like exceptionally well. Like I don't know what it is. I really don't.
I think maybe it's a combination of the fact that now he knows his defined role. He knows what he's supposed to do. He's a starter. There's really nobody looking over his shoulder. He's pretty much got a secure spot, so I think he can go out there and play comfortably. And it's fun. It's fun for me watching him and Glover Quinn work together, and even Killebrew to a degree. It's fun watching them because here in Pittsburgh, we had a safety here that's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame in a couple of years by the name of Troy Polamalu. Mm-hmm. And he kind of, I'm not saying that Diggs reminds me of him, but the way that tandem pairs up, like Polamalu freestyles a lot. He was always around the football, just like Diggs is now, because he had a guy in Ryan Clark, and before that he had, I want to say it was Chris Hope. He always had a guy back there playing safety, staying back in the backfield, playing on coverage defense that allowed him to kind of go roam free. And that's kind of what Diggs and Quinn are kind of reminiscent of that. And it's a lot of fun to watch them play the way they are.
Yeah, I mean it is because it's allowing Quinn to play closer to the line of scrimmage at times. Kind of being almost in the box as an extra linebacker to a point. That's usually kind of how they used Killebrew when Killebrew was there. But the way Diggs has played, especially the last two games against Chicago and Tampa, granted, these are not amazing offenses, right? I mean, we can obviously say that. Like, we can preface all of this by saying these are not world-beater quarterbacks. These are not great offenses. But having said that, getting interceptions in consecutive weeks, getting pass breakups in consecutive weeks, again, being a physical presence in consecutive weeks, it's not bad. Maybe he is a more natural safety, and who knows, maybe the Lions could have lucked into a spot now that Wilson was put on IR. Maybe Diggs is your answer there. I mean, you still have Killebrew, obviously, but Diggs could be a long-term answer while you still have Killebrew trying to figure out things.
Right. Yeah, it's like I said, it's fun to watch because I think now that he knows, hey, I'm the clear-cut starter, I can kind of play comfortably and kind of play within myself here and go make plays and not have to worry about anything. If that even enters his mind, who knows? He just seems to be playing very, very comfortably, and it's good to see because that's something this team has needed for a very, very long time. You figure we had guys like, a couple years ago we took Louis Delmas. He was supposed to be the answer. That didn't pan out. We had Amari Spivey from Iowa. That didn't pan out. So we've been going through a revolving door at safety, and it's nice to see that we have a guy like Quandre Diggs who could be that potential long-term player paired up with a guy like Glover Quinn who, he's on the back nine of his career, but Ryan Clark and Chris Hope, they played long careers because they weren't playing the nasty physical aspect of it. So just by them playing in coverage, they were able to extend their careers a little bit. And I think the same thing could happen for Glover Quinn. It's nice to see that pair go out there and they're going to make their plays.
Yeah, and it's something, again, looking for bright spots, not just only with this team but with the defense as well. He's been one of them. I mean, he has. Granted, it kind of, you could dampen it a little bit, just like by saying, maybe you would expect that from Killebrew, because that's why you drafted him, but also Killebrew's only in his second year. You always hear of the sophomore slump, throughout college kids. That is a real thing in pros as well, even though you don't like to see it or hear about it. It does happen, and Diggs is only in his third year too. So the fact that he's been able to play the way he has as a late-round draft pick, too. I mean, this isn't a guy that we're talking, top 4 rounds. I think he was a 5th or 6th round draft pick out of Texas. It's a pleasant surprise. If that's all we're saying in this podcast, that if it's a pleasant surprise, I'll take it. I mean, I will take it because at some point, like, there's just things that you need to hold on to with how bad things can get with the Lions, whether it be coaching decisions, referee outcomes, if you want to blame officials for stuff, which is fine, the lack of a running game, what have you. Bright spots are few and far between sometimes with this team. So we will hold on to them as much as we can. But, Marty, I know you wanted to talk about one player that's not really looking up to form in Sam Martin. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, and, I know he's just coming off injury, and it takes a little bit to get back in the swing of things. I get that. But he hasn't looked like the guy that got that nice contract. He has not looked like the Sam Martin that we got used to. He looks like just another – he looks like me going out there punting. Like, he's just shanking punts. He's not – don't get me wrong. I mean, he's had some nice ones. He had a nice one against Chicago. He put one right there in the corner, and it bounced out around the 1 or 2, and that came out nice. But more often than not, he seems like he's just another guy filling the position. And it's like I said, I know he's coming back off injury, but it's getting a little disconcerting to see that one of the better special teams players in the league happens to be on our team, and he doesn't really look all that special right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially when you have guys like Prater, Agnew coming into his own as a rookie, as a returner, and then, your punter, who is supposed to be one of the better punters in the league, not being consistent is not a good thing. Obviously, yes, he's had a foot injury when he stepped on that conch shell when he was in the offseason. That's why Casey Redford was signed, and that's why he was utilized until the Lions had to put him on season-ending IR a week before they got Martin back. And then Martin looked pretty good, and then he re-injured his. I want to say it was his ankle or maybe it was his foot again. Who knows? But that was a couple weeks ago, and that still could be hindering it. But it's something that I think we can all say when Martin is healthy, there's nothing really to worry about. But if he can't rebound from this injury quick enough, especially, granted, again, the playoffs are not a sure thing by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something where playoff games are decided by special teams. It is decided by defense. It's decided by field position. It always has been. It always will be. That's why that saying, defense wins championships, is a real thing. Because usually the NFL's best defensive units, those teams win Super Bowls. It's a fact. So, it's something, again, the last 2 weeks of the season are fastly approaching, and the fact that one of your more consistent, reliable cornerstones of your team is not performing, that's definitely concerning.
Yeah, I mean, a healthy Sam Martin is the equivalent of a healthy Matthew Stafford, if you think about it. Like, he's that good in his area of the game, and to see him kind of underperforming and being subpar, like, I don't want to say it's alarming, but it's definitely disconcerting, because it's that's one of those guys that trots out there, and you know what to expect out of him, and it's just he hasn't been living up, and you're kind of like, oh man, really? Like, the one guy outside of Matt Prater that we really need to kind of lead his area and perform up to snuff, and he's just not doing it. It's just I think he'll get it right on track. I really do, but it's just right now it's really hard to watch him play like a regular guy.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of things that were kind of hard to watch. One of them I don't think was all that bad, and I don't get the outrage that happens or that ensues from it, and we'll talk about that very briefly. But Marty, your Steelers were involved in not your Steelers. You're not really a Steeler fan, obviously, but I say that because you are from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as I give my best Mick Foley imitation. But you were front and center for one of the most wackiest finishes in an NFL game that I can remember in this season alone. The way that game ended, I still sit here and think Jesse James scored a touchdown, because this whole thing about the end zone, and the end zone is a part of the other wacky finish as well. But this is what I don't get, is any time a runner, and this is how the league defines it in the rule, when a runner crosses the plane of an end zone, no matter what, Marty, if I reach over and you knock the ball square out of my hands, but if I dive and lose that ball, but that ball crosses the goal line, automatic touchdown. Like, that is the thing. It's an automatic touchdown. You broke the plane, doesn't matter. The touchdown was scored. But yet you have Jesse James, who catches the ball, takes a step up field, and sees with his eyes that he has to dive forward or else he's not going to score against the Patriots. So he does. And the NFL says, oh, no, he's falling to the ground. That's not a touchdown. To me, that doesn't make sense. Because he before he loses the ball, when he goes down on the ground, he breaks the plane of the end zone. It should be a touchdown. When you saw that, I don't know how good your memory was because I know you were at a party. But when you saw that, what was your reaction? Did it make sense to you?
At the time, no. And to be honest with you, it still doesn't. Like you said, as soon as you cross the plane, it's a touchdown. But, I mean, another thing they always say, Ben, is, well, the ground can't cause a fumble. The ground can't cause the incompletion. Well, okay, that's fine and good. That ball never hits the ground. Like, he's got one hand under and one hand on top of it. So, like, yeah, it's bobbling around because he's hitting the ground. The ground doesn't move. It's just, to me, it was ridiculous. I get the outrage, Ben, because the Patriots won a game on pretty much the same exact situation earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. Brandon Cooks in the end zone didn't have complete control of the ball, but hey, he had 2 feet in the end zone, and they ruled it a touchdown. So I mean, it's Ben. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. You know that. You've known me now for 2 years now, or however long. I don't look into conspiracies, but it's getting to be a little fishy when all these calls that go against other teams benefit the Patriots. I don't want to be that guy that says that you know what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying?
I do. That's why I laugh. I'm laughing with you, not at you. I'm laughing at the I'm laughing at the situation. It's
just weird. How can you have one call that goes against the Steelers, say not a touchdown, but then the same thing happens but it's a touchdown for the Patriots that no other team gets? Like, I don't know, man. I just don't get it.
Well, didn't the Patriots play the Jets and Austin Seferian-Jenkins had like the same thing happen?
Yep.
So I don't know. Maybe you're onto something, but like you look at obviously what happened with a former Steeler in Zach Miller when he broke his leg, fell to the ground after he caught it. Fell to the ground, then reached for his leg because it was broken, and that wasn't a touchdown. Even though clearly it was a touchdown. Now, I know you were in a state of inebriation. We will be nice about it, but
heavy inebriation.
But there's also this funny thing that goes around, at least in sports journalists' mind, and this is why I'm asking you. Because they always say, well, to fix this catch-no-catch rule, whoever is at a bar, if you see it, like if you're at a bar, you can easily decide if that's a catch or not.
Yep.
In your state of inebriation, when you were at your Steelers viewing party, did it still look like a good touchdown or not?
Yes.
Okay. So there you go. And that's the thing that I don't get about the NFL, right? Is the NFL has no idea what a catch is. They really don't. And it's becoming a glaring issue because they use these absolutes that are truly gray areas. And the worst one is process of the catch. Because they also say anytime a receiver is falling to the ground, everything else is obsolete. Like, it doesn't matter what he was doing at that point. If they're falling to the ground, it wipes out everything. Mike Pereira said it on the Dan Patrick Show on Monday. Which is also funny because Mike Pereira said 2 years ago that if the receiver is reaching for the goal line and crosses the goal line, it should be a touchdown. So he's contradicting himself. And I bring that up because that's part of the problem. Now, process of the catch to me is going to be different than it is to you, Marty, or Dan Griffin on Out of Bounds, Roger Castillo on the Road Show, Jason Pinkham on spinning the wheels, we're all going to see a process of the catch, right, as different. Because what's a process to me is not a process to you, not a process to anyone else. So the fact that that's even in the rule book shows that the NFL has no idea what a catch is. And it's part of this whole bastardization that this league is going through with replay because we watch all of it like it's a Zapruder film. You watch it clip by clip, and you're like, up, nope, right there. Ball moved, not a catch. We saw it a couple of years ago with Des Bryant, right? Making that catch against the Packers. That was a touchdown. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there are things that should be just clear as day, black and white. That should be a touchdown. But I digress. Anyway, the second part of the wacky finishes is this is an outrage I don't get. And maybe Marty, I don't know what your stance is. Do you feel that if someone's reaching for the pylon or reaching for the goal line and they fumble it, what are your thoughts on that? Because I want to know your thoughts before I dive into it. Do you think, like, if it goes out the back of the end zone, it should be a touchback? Or are you of the group that thinks that if you do fumble it while you're trying to make a play for the pylon or whatever, the offense should still get the ball? And you can be honest. It's okay. I'm not. I'm honest. I'm honestly looking for your opinion on this.
If it goes out of the end zone?
Yes, if it goes out of the back, like out of the back of the end zone or off to the side of the end zone.
It's a touchback.
Okay, because it's something that I don't get. A lot of people share this frustration, and I don't get it because
you're level-headed?
Well, no, it's not that. Like, I think it's because I see it as a player, and I don't want to, like, use the argument of, well, you didn't play the game, you don't understand it. But the end zone is the absolute end-all, be-all of the field. That is why it's called the end zone. It's literally the end of the field of play. That's why usually when you cross it immediately, if you're a runner or a catcher, it is like the play's over, you've scored. And if you've thrown into it and no one catches it, it's incomplete. Because it's just as good as it going out of bounds. Because after that goal line, whatever is behind it is irrelevant. And this is what I don't get. People actually saying, well, you should reward the offense of getting the ball back on the 1 yard line. Why? And I've heard the argument from a lot of very smart people. And I don't want to sit here and say that they're being dumb or that their views are not valid, because they are. We all see things differently. But I understand, yes, it's you are taught to do everything in your power to try to score. You are taught that from day one. And I understand, yes, you are trying to make a play for it, and it's a risky play. But if you fumble the football and it goes past the goal line and it goes out of bounds, that is a touchback. It is a touchback 100% of the time, and you shouldn't reward the offense because no one clearly recovered the ball in the end zone or not. You shouldn't reward an offense for a mistake. And the rules are already set up to an offensive advantage in the NFL. You can't clutch and grab if you're a cornerback. You can't breathe on someone. You can't hit someone over the middle because it's going to be targeting. It's going to be a penalty. You can't lunge at a quarterback because if you touch him, that's a penalty. If you hit him below the knee. If you hit him above the chest, you are getting a fine and getting a personal foul. And if you touch him wrong. I mean, there's just so many things that go in the offense's favor, right? This should not be one of them. Because, again, to me, it's as clear as day. If the ball is fumbled out at the 1 yard line before it touches a pylon, yes, offense gets to have it. That is fine. But if you fumble it and it crosses into the end zone and goes out of bounds, that you're rewarding the defense. It is a turnover. Like, to me, it's so easy in black and white that I don't get it. Like, I do not get the big outrage that people are having over this rule because they think it's unfair. And I don't see how they see that it being unfair. Because that 1 yard, those 3 feet, do separate literally the end of the field, which is just like you fumbling it out of bounds, or it, resulting in a touchback, and you still fumbling within the field of play, which would be at the 1 yard line. Like, there is a difference there, and it's a different of scenario, no matter how you are trying to score or not. And to me, I don't get the outrage. I honestly don't, Marty. I really don't.
No, I don't either. The only thing I can think of is they just want to see their team score. And to me, that's all it is. They just want to see them get a do-over. It's whining. It's this new participation trophy mentality. You know what I mean? Oh, you didn't get it the first time, here, do it again. No, that's not how it goes. So I agree with you. I don't understand the outrage either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. But again, I'm not saying anyone's stupid. I'm not saying your view's wrong. I just think it would be a mistake to change the rule.
I'll say it.
No, okay. But again, I'm just saying if they changed the rule, that would be a mistake. Because the thing that you should get right first is what's clearly a catch and what's not a catch. Outside of that, really quick housekeeping. Lions place TJ Jones on IR. They promote wide receiver Andy Jones from the practice squad. That does kind of suck because TJ Jones has been a pretty good safety valve when Golladay was hurt.
And on teams.
Yeah, no, you're right. And special teams, and he made a couple of big plays, the past couple of weeks as well. So it does suck that he injured his shoulder, and he's officially put on IR. But some really good news, someone that was put on IR, Aaron Rodgers, right? The Lions will not have to face a Aaron Rodgers-led Packer team in Week 17. Marty, you did it perfectly. Woohoo! Like, it is, if the Lions do not go 10-6, someone should go on a warpath, and that someone should be Bob Quinn and Martha Ford. Because at this point, you literally have no excuses. You should be a 10-6 team. Yes, you're going to need help to get into the playoffs. You need the Saints to beat the Falcons. You need, the Cowboys to beat the Seahawks in the next 2 weeks. You need all of that. Yes, you do. But the Lions have no excuses now. They literally have zero excuses for not going 10-6. They should be 11-5, but we know what happened with the Falcons game, which is still beyond irritating, as we were talking about what's a catch, what's not a catch. But Aaron Rodgers is out. Brett Hundley will be in. I'm celebrating. What about you, Marty?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I still think we could have beaten the Packers even with Rodgers, but I have no doubt that we'll beat them with Brett Hundley. And it's not an indictment on him. It's really not. There's a reason he's a backup quarterback, and I'm not just saying that because Aaron Rodgers is out now. I legitimately think that we could have beat this Packers team with Rodgers under center. He just came off the injury. The Lions, I just think they could have done it. I guess now we'll never know, and I don't really care to. So it's going to be nice. It should go 10-6. The only bugaboo to me is, Ben, we were talking before we launched about the lack of running game in Cincinnati and Detroit. Mm-hmm. It's the big bugaboo to me is what Andy Dalton are we going to end up getting? Because there's been really good Andy Dalton, very, very few and far between this year. And then there's been abysmal Andy Dalton, which has been pretty consistent this year. That's the only thing that I can see really marring us going 10-6, depending on which Andy Dalton shows up.
Yeah, no, you are 100% correct. It is something that the rushing offense, the only team that's behind the Lions, and it's fractional, but it is still the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's with Jeremy Hill. That's with what's his name?
Mixon.
No, not Mixon, the other guy.
Bernard.
Yeah, thank you.
Bernard.
Yeah, Gio Bernard, and then, yes, Joe Mixon. But here's the fractionality of it. The Lions have outrushed the Bengals on the season by 5 yards. Their average yard per attempt is the exact same at 3.4. Average yards per game The Lions have you beat by the nose of a football. We touched the index card with success. That's 77.4 to the Bengals, 77 yards a game. So I also mentioned that because Gene, what's his name?
Sterator.
Yeah, Serator will be the official on Saturday. But you're completely right. It totally depends on which Andy Dalton shows up, which A.J. Green shows up, and which running attack shows up. Because who knows? Maybe the Bengals are like the Lions and have one game, where they're kind of they just explode into something. Who knows? But the Lions should win the next 2 games. They would be 4-1 on the year, the last 5, and I said I would be okay with that. I am on record saying I'm okay with that. But yeah, it's definitely plausible, and it's something that the Lions are still not eliminated from playoff contention, and winning the next 2 is important. Outside of that, Marty, anything else you want to add to the table really quick that's crossed your mind?
Just how disgusted I am that, with T.J. Jones being on injured reserve, we still don't have Jay Lee in Detroit, Ben. We still don't have Jay Lee in Detroit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I like that kid. I really wish he would have caught on, but that's neither here nor there. No, I don't know if you saw it. They just went across. Thomas Davis, his 2-game suspension for his hit on Devontae Adams reduced to 1 game.
What?
Yeah, they reduced it to 1 game.
Is everything now going to be 1 game no matter what? Is that just going to be like the standard line? Is just going to be now 1 game no matter what?
I think it's because he's a first-time offender. I think that's the only reason that it's a 1-game thing. Because it's Thomas Davis is one of the cleanest players in the league, and for him to I don't think he was targeting him at all. It was just such a bang bang play.
Right.
But definitely the 1-game suspension. Like I said, that just went across. So that's the only thing that I could really think to. I wanted to ask your opinion on this, Ben, before we go.
Yeah.
We saw Antonio Brown get hurt in that Steelers game.
Yes.
That sucks. The guy's such a dynamic player. Martavis Bryant, the big storyline here is, and everybody knows it's been reported everywhere. He wants the ball. Well, we were at the Steelers viewing party, which was at a family member's house. It was my uncle's house. And I looked at him and I said, you watch. I said, now that Antonio Brown's going to be out, Martavis is going to be the number 1 receiver. He's going to ball out. And he started to, and then halftime hit. Ben, here's my question. What happened to Martavis Bryant? The man disappeared. He did a Houdini act because after he caught his touchdown at the end of the first half, the man went off the grid. He went dark. I have no clue if it was coaching, if he was hurt. What happened to Martavis Bryant? I want to get your opinion.
Man, that's who knows. It could be coaching. It's something that I know the coaches don't, at least in Pittsburgh, don't really like Martavis Bryant. You have Mike Tomlin say, yeah, we're in his corner, but it's kind of like how Jim Caldwell treats his players now to a point where
Martavis Bryant earned that kind of behavior
yes.
with his ridiculous drug suspensions and then his tirades on social media. So he's kind of earned that, for lack of a better term, disdain. He's earned that.
Yeah. Maybe when they were reenacting the Vontaze Burfict hit celebration, maybe he got hurt. Maybe Juju Smith-Schuster actually hurt him. Who knows? But it's something that Martavis Bryant is a guy who's always been inconsistent, even when he's been on the field. He's a good big target, but that's all he is. He's nothing even remotely close to consistent. So the fact that he makes a big play and then disappears does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, no, it was just weird to me because all he said is he wants the ball, give me a shot. Well, technically you're the wide receiver 2 on this team with Juju as the slot receiver. When Antonio Brown went down, that makes you the number 1 guy. You can't disappear. You cannot pull a Houdini. You have to be there. You have to be the guy. There's no way Jesse James should have been getting end zone looks ahead of Martavis Bryant, but for whatever reason, that's exactly what happened. So to me, I don't know. It was just weird. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it because I have no thoughts on it. I don't know. I don't know. I have no explanation for it.
Yeah, I don't have an explanation for it either. I just, like I said, I just know he's inconsistent as all get out. But outside of that, yeah, nothing. But yeah, I think that's it. Unless you want to play a quick game off the top of your head, do you feel like playing a quick game?
Sure.
All right. So obviously Kobe Bryant had his 2 numbers retired just the other night ago out in LA. If you could pick from the Lions who would deserve to have 2 numbers or 2 jerseys retired, who would it be and why?
Well, 20 already is, and that's with 3 players, so I can't count that one. I'm going to say 81 for Calvin for obvious
You can
reasons.
count 20. You can.
No, you can't because it's already done.
But again, the 20 is like different. So like if Barry Sanders were to change his number, you could say Barry Sanders deserves to have 2 numbers retired. That's basically the question.
Oh, okay. I got you. But I would say 81 for Calvin. Like I said, for all the reasons. He holds every receiving record in Detroit. And you know what, dude? It's another newer number. It's another newer player. But I have to go with 9 for Stafford because he holds every record for the Lions. Whether he wins a Super Bowl or not is irrelevant for this conversation. We're talking about, individual statistics and individual glory and all that. So I would have to say 9 and 81 based on Calvin and Stafford. What about you?
For me, I would say Bobby Lane because that curse is epic. I'm sorry. That curse is nothing short of epic. So
he won 22, didn't he?
He did. So you could have as many years as that curse has been going on as his second number, and that should be retired. Like, that would be one of them for me. Bobby Lane definitely should be one of them because, like I said, that curse is just nothing short of epic. Even though I don't like the way he retired, Barry Sanders is a guy because the way he ran, the way he changed the game, granted in the playoffs, when the Lions got to the playoffs, he kind of disappeared. But he's a guy, I think, too, that if it would be easy if he had a second number, you could retire it. Calvin, I would agree with you on that. And now, Matthew Stafford basically is your franchise leader at the quarterback position. If he went from 9 to a double-digit number, I'm pretty sure you'd have to retire both.
Yeah. Probably.
Because, who knows? Like, the reason why, let's say, the Lions, even if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, right? Because, it's the Lions. Obviously, they haven't been there, probably not going there ever. At least I don't anticipate it in my lifetime. If they do, sweet, but again, I'm not anticipating it. But let's just say next year he wants to wear number 3, or he wants to wear, number, I don't know. He tells Jake Rudock, take a hike, I'm wearing 14. And then he still plays the next 5 years under that new number. Maybe he gets a couple of playoff wins because we don't know what Bob Quinn's going to do with the roster. Maybe he does take the Lions to like an NFC, championship game or whatever, and they still lose. I think with all of that of what he's done, I think you could make an argument that if he had 2 numbers, you could retire both. So those are the 2 I would pick. I would easily pick Bobby Lane and Barry Sanders.
That's fair. That's more than fair. Because,
again, that curse is just nothing short of epic. It really is. It's still active. I know Stafford said he wants to end that curse because they both went to the same high school. Everyone knows the story, but yeah, it's, again, nothing short of amazing. But that's all the time that we have. Oh wait, no, we have one more thing. Who do you think wins, Detroit or Cincinnati, since the game is on the road?
Detroit. I don't trust Cincinnati. They've been looking worse than Detroit was for their losses. Detroit shows at least some signs of improvement at times. So I'm going to say Detroit over Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm just going based on blind hope. For me, it's playoff or bust. yeah. Outside of that, I can't say one way or the other. For me, it's Lions have to win. I hope, again, the Saints win and anything that can get those three teams, Dallas, I think it's Dallas, Detroit, and I think the other team has to be the Seahawks to 10-6. If that happens, great, because that means the Lions are in. So I'm all for that right now because I want to see a Lions playoff win before I die. And that's a really low bar, and it's a pathetic bar, but I'm bellying up to it like a champion. So Lions over Bengals, that's the way I'm going. Outside of that, that's all the time that we have. Obviously, you will not hear from us until after Christmas, so everyone here at Sports Radio Detroit, we wish you who are listening to Lions SRD a very Merry Christmas. If you're celebrating Hanukkah, Happy Hanukkah to you, and everyone else celebrating the holidays, Happy Holidays to you and yours. We will definitely be back with a new Lions SRD after Christmas. And, yeah, we just appreciate you listening, and we hope that you and your families have a very wonderful, happy holidays. And, Marty, what do we say?
And we say goodnight.
We say goodnight.
This has been an SRD production.